What's up, everybody? It's Rob and Donald from Nerd and Out Sports, and we're back with some more Giants talk. The big news, obviously, in Giants land right now is that the Giants have moved on. They've cut ties with Jason Garrett as offensive coordinator. He is gone. I know much of Giants Nation is very happy. Donald, why don't you give us your thoughts on the whole Garrett situation?
Obvious move, really. My first initial reaction is it's a little bit of a scapegoat situation because Joe Judge has really been at the heart of a lot of the problems. But yes, Garrett has played such a key role in so many of the offensive deficiencies. They're 26th this year on offense, 31st last year. What they really should have done is fired him last year. I don't really feel too great the fact that he was banged on Thanksgiving. I don't think that's the Giant way. Mr. Classy Organization firing a guy on Thanksgiving, I don't think is particularly great for his family, whatever. But that's just a personal thing. I know this is sports; it's not professional, it's not personal, but I think he could have handled that better. I think the Giants knew all along, and certainly I don't think Joe Judge and Garrett really saw eye to eye and how the offense was running. So why it took this long for the obvious decision to be made is really anyone's guess. I think Joe Judge always wanted Freddie Kitchens to be the offensive coordinator. He brought him on the staff for a reason. He had some kind of mock role, which wasn't really much involved in anything. Freddie Kitchens used to be a head coach for Cleveland and an offensive coordinator. I think he was the original plan, but I think Mara really pushed on Garrett, so the ex-head coach thing, a little bit of experience to help Joe Judge or whatever. And I think he was kind of foisted on Joe Judge, and I think Joe Judge really tried to make it work, couldn't. So he should have banged him last year. Should have been finished last year. It was a terrible year last year. Daniel Jones was completely deficient last year. It was a perfect opportunity to move on, but they didn't. They continued to go in limbo. They continued to bring in all these playmakers, and the scheme and the quarterback couldn't find a way to get the ball to these playmakers. And now we're back in this limbo again. The bye week just passed. I know that we beat Las Vegas, but it was quite obvious that there was offensive problems all year long. Go in the bye week, bring in a change, and then you had the entire bye week to instill new plays to help Daniel Jones and stuff. Instead, they've just kind of, on a short week, because we had Monday and now we got Sunday, in a short week, they've thrown out the offensive coordinator, bring somebody else in, and now we're kind of doing this kind of dance where Joe Judge doesn't really want to name who the offensive coordinator is. And Daniel Jones is going to be reading from a wristband. So I don't really like how the organization's handled this. It should have been done long before, but it's a start. It's a start. It's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I guess better late than never, but you're right. It should have happened sooner. I mean, at least at the bye week. That was the perfect time. You had the week off. You could have made the move then, and you had a good 2 weeks before the Tampa Bay game, which turned out to be fantastic, I guess. It's just poor timing, and it really proves that the organization is just lost. And I mean, if the record over the last decade doesn't tell you that, then this kind of does, just poor decision making all across the board. The fact that our offense was, in the bottom five in the league the last 2 years is all I need to know, that Garrett just wasn't doing the job. And this year they gave him the playmakers, and I said in our last episode that I don't want to put the full blame on him, but there are quarterbacks, there are teams, I should say, that make things work with the lack of an offensive line, that are able to move the ball with injuries, and the Giants just never do it. And the thing is, we can move the football, but once we get to within like the 20-yard line, we just forget how to move the football. We move backwards, we turn up with 3 points, and it's happening every single week. And you can't win in today's NFL scoring, 17 points, especially when your defense can't stop anything. Long overdue move. I'm not expecting much out of a new Kitchens offense. I think it's going to be kind of the same thing, but maybe some more downfield looks at Galladay. That might be it, though. I don't know what, we're not going to see a completely different Daniel Jones within the first week. Maybe the last few games we see more as they get used to this new-ish offense. Then maybe we see more of better offensive team to give you some hope moving forward. But I think you're right. I think Joe Judge really wanted Kitchens all along. Garrett was a Mara guy. He's a former Giant, former player, and I think they wanted him for a long time. There was reports they wanted him for head coach, which I thought would have been terrible. So, yeah, it's a long overdue move, and we'll see where it goes from here. If it's Kitchens, if it's Shaplinski, whoever the hell may be calling plays. At this point, throw out the old book and try anything, because it's not like we have a playoff spot to fight for at this point. The season's been lost, and let's just see what works.
That's why we're in this position. I think that's why they're doing this. They're doing this now because they need to see what they have in Daniel Jones, whether it is the offensive coordinator that's holding him back. I mean, obviously, from the initial look, it looks like he's more of a Shermer product, Daniel Jones. He's struggled in the offensive system since. Now, is it all Jason Garrett? I think Jason Garrett has a lot to do with it. Jason Garrett hasn't changed any of his offensive philosophy since he was the head coach in Dallas. And that was a while ago. And the NFL's changed a lot since then. And he's not really changed with it. But that's, to be honest, I don't think that's all Jason Garrett. That's the Giants, man. That's John Mara. That's the organization. It's the Giant way. Whatever this means, the Giant way is what John Mara continues to push. And that's why he's brought in Dave Gettleman. That's why he wanted a hard-ass coach like Joe Judge. And that's why he foisted him with his favorite guy, Jason Garrett, because he was an ex-Giant, backup quarterback. It was a lot of this is this old school philosophy that the Giants have, which is proving not to work. They need to get with the times. That's what it is. Am I confident that they will get with the times? No, because I think the far bigger issue is what's going to come up at the end of the year when it comes to Joe Judge's status, Gettleman's status, the relationship between the two, and then you're also looking at the Daniel Jones situation, which is becoming a problem week on week, which I don't think a lot of fans want to look at. Don't think they want to admit it. And I definitely don't think the organization wants to admit it either. But we could get into that later on.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Jones is that I look at least a year into the future. There's nobody in this draft class that I think is worth using a first-round pick on and replacing Jones with. So I think even if we clean house, Jones is still going to be the quarterback until a better class shows up. And right now, I would say the top guy is Willis, and I still think that's a project, because if you put Willis behind an offensive line that, let's say they use one pick on Willis and another pick on Tyler Lindenbaum, then you've upgraded one position on the offensive line that needs 4 positions to be upgraded right now. So you're going to put another rookie quarterback behind another really bad offensive line, and we're going to be resetting the process we just started 3 years ago with Jones. So it's going to put another first-round rookie quarterback in that tough position. And if he struggles too, then you're going to blame the offensive line again. So that's why I think if you're going to stick, we're going to stick with Jones next year. I think that's almost a guarantee unless they clean house. That's why I'm okay with at least one more year, even though I wouldn't mind everyone getting fired, to be honest. But if we go one more year of Gettleman and Judge, and then we wait and maybe that third year of the three of them together is what happens. I don't think it will be, but at this point, I don't think a new quarterback's going to solve this team's issues. They have to use the 2 first-round picks. They have to fix this offensive line. It's the biggest thing holding back this team from actually being able to be a somewhat average offense, because we are bad. It's not like we're even below average offense. We are a terrible offense 2 years in a row now. And that offensive line is a big reason for it. We can't move the football and get points when we need to. And Malik Willis is not changing that. No quarterback in this class is changing that. And it's just another reset button that it's not going to work. And I'm not trying to say Willis can't get it done at the NFL level, but it's going to be difficult when you don't fix the major issue. Something Gettleman has yet to fix. He's taken chances. He's given the attempt at least. He signed players, he's drafted players, but when 4/5 of your offensive line are bad, no one's succeeding behind this offensive line. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to put all of the blame on it, but a big chunk of the blame of this offensive struggles are on that offensive line. Nate Solder's still playing. He's still playing week after week. Matt Skura is your left guard. Billy Price is your starting center. Will Hernandez has fallen off a cliff after his rookie year. It's really, really bad. And until they fix the offensive line, this offense isn't going to go anywhere. And it sucks because a guy like Willis with guys like Galladay, Tony, Barkley for at least one more year, and Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton could be pretty dynamic. But if the quarterback is getting murdered every single play, then what good is it going to do? We're going to have a repeat of this, what we're seeing right now with Daniel Jones.
Well, at the moment, it looks like Matt Corral looks like the name that seems to be rising on a lot of draft boards. He's got the Ole Miss connection. Maybe that's something that the Giants could explore with him coming up through Ole Miss like Eli Manning did. I've quite liked a lot of the things I've seen from Corral this year. I'm not sure. I think it's just what has Daniel Jones shown me this year, which would be that much of a huge upgrade over whatever quarterback's coming through. His numbers this year are diabolical. His QBR is 40, which is 26th in the NFL, 22nd in passing. His turnovers are again through the roof, and the thing is, you can blame it all on the offensive line, but how many? I mean, a lot of fans are using that, and certainly the organization is using that because they're in a similar mindset as that they don't want to keep changing it and all that stuff. Plus, they're an old school organization; they don't really want to keep changing quarterbacks and stuff. And Daniel Jones is exactly what they're looking for in terms of toughness and a really nice, accountable guy, that kind of a thing. But it seems to be at the expense of production because his production doesn't face up to scrutiny. His production's been terrible for a while now. And I understand what you're saying, though, because he did face pressure on 48% of the time of every single snap. He was faced pressure 48% of the time against Tampa Bay, and he fell apart. He completely fell apart. But there are other quarterbacks. There's a bunch of quarterbacks in this league that don't fall apart under pressure and don't have a great offensive line either. Very few teams actually have elite offensive lines. But Daniel Jones really struggles, and he's also not improved in any aspect of the game. Nothing. He's doing exactly the same nonsense as what he did in his rookie year. He's staring down receivers, and he's completely missing the rest of the field. He never goes to his tertiary or fourth options. He always just focuses on his first. And when he's under pressure and he's on the run, he's not a particularly accurate quarterback when he's on the run, when he's throwing on the run. When he has time, he's reasonably accurate, not great. Sometimes throws away over people's heads and stuff like that. But his best skill is still his deep ball and also the run options, which are designed runs for him. That's what he's at his best. The two things that he's really good at. But in those circumstances, again, you're asking your offensive line to hold off enough for the deep routes to take effect. And that's one thing. And again, in his situation, it's difficult for that to happen. And he's going to have to manufacture time, which means he's going to have to run around the pocket a little bit. And he's not really proven that he's particularly good at that, in my opinion. I think his feet are a little bit iffy. I just think that a lot of it is coaching, but I also think a lot of it is him because he's not any much of a better quarterback than I really saw in his rookie year or at Duke, because his quarterback scouting report at Duke was a guy that has, that is really athletic, has a good deep arm, athletic, which is exactly what we've seen, but makes terrible mistakes and a lot of dumb mistakes. And he's exactly the same quarterback. I don't think in fact, I know he's not the one. He's not the answer. He's just not the answer. I mean, I went through this whole year going with the impression that he wasn't the problem. There were so many bigger problems than Daniel Jones. And I even said that in our previous podcast. But then I watched that Tampa game and I realized that he is actually part of the problem. And I know Tampa have an excellent defense. I know Tampa are champions, and I know Tampa will probably be Super Bowl contenders again this year. But again, Daniel Jones flops on prime time, which is not a good look. This is the New York Giants. We are a special organization where we should be, and we continue to flop in prime time. He's got 0 wins in prime time, which is a concern. That's one thing. The second thing was actually a play which really just told me that, oh no, this guy is not and it wasn't even the pass to McClendon, which was embarrassing. It was actually the worst throw I've seen this year in any quarterback in the NFL. It was actually when Golladay had an open seam route right down the middle of the field, which would have been a touchdown. And you could see it in real time. I was shouting it in real time, throwing the ball, but he wasn't. Daniel Jones was looking the opposite direction. He was looking at the sideline. He was looking at Kadarius Toney. He was in man coverage, and he was completely locked down. And he focused on him, and the ball sailed over his head. That's when I said, he's not the one. Because most quarterbacks can see the field. If your first target is locked down, you need to look at the other options. But he doesn't trust his offensive line, which is 1. So he needs to get it out quick. I understand that. 2, he never looks off his first option anyway. He never does. And so even though Garrett will get the blame for all kinds of terrible play calling, like one of the plays was crazy when we had 3 guys running into each other. I'm sure we can talk about that in a second. But we've had all kinds of embarrassing play calls from Garrett. But also, Jones isn't helping him. He is not helping the offense. He's not helped Garrett. He's not helped anybody. He's definitely not helped Golladay. I feel bad for Golladay because he actually misses him a lot of the time. Golladay has been open, and he doesn't find him because he just panics. He throws over his head. He gets a little bit inaccurate. I don't know. Would you agree with that assessment, or am I being too harsh?
No, I think it's fair because year 3 is really where you're, in my opinion, and I know a lot of people share the same sentiment, is where you really start to evaluate what a quarterback is. You know, your rookie year, you're going to give them some leeway. It's a rookie. Year 2, we didn't see much of anything from Jones that tells us he was the guy. You know, let's be honest. He didn't have a good second season. And this year, we're seeing those same things. And I do like Daniel Jones. I may not have been a fan of the pick, but I wanted him to be the guy. I wanted to be proven wrong. Every Giants fan, well, I would assume, shares that same thought. Like, we wanted to be, if we didn't like Jones, we want him to prove us wrong. We want him to be the guy because we need the quarterback. That's the most important position on the team. But there are too many issues, you know? And I believe that play you were talking about was the mesh route where, you know, everyone's just running into each other and just no one knows the playbook. And it's, you're just sitting there like, how is this team, how have we become this? You know, like, we're the laughing stock of the NFL. The Lions have yet to win a game, but, you know, people expect them to fight at least every single week. That's what we were last year. We were like, the Giants are probably not going to win, but they're going to put up a fight. How we have regressed so much in a year after improving the roster, in my opinion, because we got better this offseason and we've regressed. That's the most alarming thing to me. And a lot of that has to do with Jones. Is Jones the problem? The biggest problem? No. But is he a part of the problem? Yes, absolutely. You should not be struggling. Even with the bad offensive line, you should not be struggling to find Kenny Golladay. And a coordinator should not be struggling to get him involved. Should not be struggling to get Kadarius Toney involved. Now, they're trying to get Toney involved, but I think now the last 2 games Galladay's played, he's had a total of like 4 targets. He's had a total of like 30 targets on the year. Not catches, targets. That's terrible. That is bad for a guy you're paying that money to. So, yeah, a change was needed. And Daniel Jones, now it's on him. Okay, we think if a lot of people say Garrett was holding Jones back, all right, well, now is his chance to prove it. If Kitchens and whoever's calling these plays are really going to open it up for him and say, okay, well, now we want you to go downfield more. That's your strength. Now it's his time. If he doesn't get it done, then you probably do have to move on. And the Giants probably will say, all right, well, we gave it a couple of years. Gettleman, you got to go. Judge, you got to go. New GM, start from scratch. and take the quarterback and see what you can get for Jones in a trade. Maybe you get a third and something else. Maybe you get something similar to what the Jets got for Darnold. But I think these next, 7 games we're about to play, this is it. This is the real opportunity to see what Jones is made of. If he passes the test and we win some games, even if we lose some, but he's not the issue, then you can say, all right, we'll give it another year. But if he fails and he looks like he did Monday night, then you really can't defend that. And you might have to start looking at the quarterback and be like, do we take a shot on Willis? Do we take a shot on Corral? Or do we sign a guy like Tyrod Taylor, or maybe go after a guy like a Bridgewater type that can just hold, a placeholder, that's the word, for another year or two until someone does become available that's like that can't miss quarterback prospect. So there's still a lot of question marks. But yeah, that Tampa Bay game didn't give me any reason to be positive with Daniel Jones, and I'm hoping that these next 7 weeks we see something different. But my confidence level, like I was drinking the Kool-Aid after the win against the Raiders. I was like, I'm starting to mix. I'm mixing the Kool-Aid at least. But now I'm just kind of like throwing the whole cup away. I'm back to where I was, the week before. It's like I don't know what to. Every single week is a different team, And after a bye, to put out that performance, I know it was Tampa Bay. I know it was on the road, but you didn't even put up a fight. The defense was getting obliterated all night long. Patrick Graham didn't make a single adjustment until it was far too late, and the offense it had no shot, and it's upsetting. This is where we are as a team, as an organization. It's just rock bottom, and how long is it going to take for us to get out of it is the biggest question. But
30 to 10 was 30-10 was kind.
Yeah.
It should have been like 50. I mean, Tampa moved the ball so easily. They just was like a hot knife through butter, man. It was just so easy. And as you say, there was no coaching adjustments at all on either side. It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing coaching all through, from Garrett, from Judge, and now Graham as well. I mean, the soft zone works to an extent, but if that's all you do, then you're just going to get beat up, man. There was zero pass rush. Zero. It was actually embarrassing. There was no pressures on Tom Brady. He was actually he had so much time. He was looking at his 6th, 7th options. He had so much time. It was unbelievable how much time he had. He was even running. He ran better than Daniel Jones last time.
He broke tackles.
He was breaking tackles. He was breaking tackles, man. He was running, and it was embarrassing. It was every pass he wanted to make, he made. The only time was that one interception, which helped us. That was the only time we actually scored. And again, it wasn't a receiver who caught the ball. It was a tackle option. That was the only way that we actually managed to get a touchdown. Other than that, it would have been we would have scored 3 points the entire game.
Yep.
It's so huge, the coaching issues that we've got. Far bigger than just Jason Garrett. I think we need to be talking about Joe Judge.
Yeah. I mean, I've been on the boat of fire everybody. I want the full reset. I don't want them to keep Judge and then fire Gettleman, or fire Gettleman and keep Judge. I don't want that. So that's why I think they need to either stick with them for one more year or let them go and start over completely. I want a new GM with a head coach of his choice and a staff of his choice, and I want them to really work together and assess this roster and make this team better. And I want Mara and Tisch to stay the hell out of their business. I want the next GM, this is your team. You fix it. We'll handle the running the team sort of thing, the running the organization, but you handle the team building, you and the coach. That's what we need to do, because we haven't done that. That we did it with Shermer and Gettleman and didn't get us very far. And I like what Gettleman has done in terms of the draft. I think he's drafted well, but when your record is what it is, when under him as GM, it's time for a change. We have to move on. A new GM with 2 first-round picks can really start to transform this team into something better. I think we have a lot of work to do, but it's something that definitely has to be explored. So it's got to be one or the other. You're either firing everybody or you're keeping this staff on for at least one more year, and then you really, if another year like this happens, then you almost have to. You have to. There's no almost about it. You have to make changes all across the board because the fans are going to start lighting MetLife on fire at that point because it's pretty brutal. So we got Philly coming up tomorrow.
Can I just
Eagles,
Can I just comment on Joe Judge? It's really difficult to judge Joe Judge, no pun intended. It's difficult because you can only base it on the things that he says and the things that he preached when he in his introductory press conference. Because he's not a guy who specializes in offense or defense. He's not like one of these guys like McVay or Kingsbury who are geniuses on offense. Do you know what I mean? A Shanahan or whatever. He's not one of those kind of guys. He was brought up through Belichick and he's got a special teams background, right? So you can't judge him on our offense or defense. So that automatically makes it a little bit more difficult just to judge him as a head coach. So the only thing you could judge him as a head coach on are things like clock management and discipline and what he said in his introductory press conference. So in the introductory press conference, he said that we were going to play like we were going to represent the region of New York, New Jersey. Hardworking, fight every single minute, that kind of stuff, and be a disciplined football team and punch you in the mouth, blah, 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 blah. Right? Have we done that? No, not really. I don't think we've actually represented New York, New Jersey at all. And I really don't think this definitely not been disciplined. Been incredibly ill-disciplined. So that's 2 X marks against them. And then you have to look at clock management, which is actually probably the worst in the NFL. So that's another X mark against them. And then with the fact that his special teams background, our special teams has been terrible apart from our kicker. Everything else, the coverage, the punting, Dixon, things, and the discipline on the special teams things too. So honestly, you have to look at him and go, is he that great a coach? And then you look at the guys, have any guys actually progressed under Joe Judge? And then you think, no, not really. I think that Andrew Thomas has, but I think that's a lot to do with the offensive line coach that we've got. I think it's helped him. Done a good job there. Thomas has definitely taken a step forward. Jones has taken a step back. Saquon looks lost right now. Kadarius Toney, well, he's hurt all the time, and we don't find him the ball, which is a shame because he's incredibly talented. It's really difficult to assess what he's done to improve this team. I would say that he started off great last year, but I think he's at the heart of most of the problems this year. And firing the offensive coordinator is. Remember, he also got rid of our offensive line coach last year. So he's going through coaches right now. Sooner or later, the buck's going to have to point to him. And I don't think John Mara. I think the biggest problem is Mara. I agree with you, because as I said at the start, a lot of this is about the giant way, and also John Mara doesn't want to fire another coach after 2 years because it's a bad look because of Shermer and because of McAdoo and all that stuff. And then also that you have to admit that he made a mistake. But why would you delay what isn't right? If things are wrong, you've got to basically cut it off now, because if you just keep delaying it, then fans are going to get more and more upset because they're the ones that are really suffering here. They're paying through the nose to get seats in MetLife Stadium, and they have to watch knowing that something's broken. I'm not quite sure if Joe Judge can fix this, but certainly agree with you. I don't like the idea of a new GM having to be encumbered with having Joe Judge as a coach. So you need to have a GM who knows Joe Judge, or Joe Judge choosing the next GM and all that stuff. But you'd have to be all in knowing that Joe Judge is your guy. I've not seen anything to convince me that he should have that power to choose who the next GM is. You need to have it if you're going to have a full rebuild. Then you need to have a full rebuild. You can't half-ass it. It's a big thing. But the biggest issue is Dave Gettleman. As you said, a lot of the draft picks were reasonable. He's had some successful draft picks, and also his free agent signings have not been terrible. But his offensive line preaching is what killed him. And also, the Saquon Barkley thing is going to be on his resume, and so is Daniel Jones. I think these are all mistakes, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think Gettleman, the biggest, obviously, the Barkley pick is going to be that big stain, because if you just flip the order, you go guard and running back in round 1 and 2 of that year, you have Quentin Nelson and Nick Chubb, and maybe things aren't as bad as they are right now. But we can go on for hours talking about offensive linemen that our GMs have missed. I mean, we took Eli Apple over Laramie Tunzel a few years ago, and when he fell into our lap, Tunzel fell into our lap, and we took a really unknown cornerback at such a high pick. But again, we can go on for hours talking about that. But let's quickly break down this Eagles game, expectations. What do you think we need to do to finally beat these damn Eagles? I know we beat them last year, but did we beat them last year, or am I mistaken?
We never do well against the Eagles. We have a terrible record against the Eagles.
I feel like we did beat them, didn't we? I'm pretty sure we beat them once last year. We almost beat them in Philly. We blew it because Evan Ingram had Butterfield.
Oh, yeah, that was a
but
great game.
I think we beat them in MetLife Stadium, if I'm not mistaken. But my memory with the Giants is so just jumbled into one big mess that I forget.
Because every year is just a disaster.
Yeah, it really, really is. But what are your expectations for the game tomorrow? Do you think we pull it out, or do you think Philly just continues to have their way with us?
Well, if you'd asked me prior to the Tampa Bay game, I would have put this in the W column. But I can't say I'm confident now. I've not seen anything that can convince me that we should put them in us in the favorites column. But what I'd like to see is certainly a little bit more creativity on offensive play calling. And I think there will be a couple of adjustments that'll be made that'll be for the better. So far, it looks like Caden Smith is out. It looks like Kadarius Toney is doubtful. He's been doubtful basically every single week this year. So I don't know whether he plays or not. It looks like he's probably not, which is definitely going to hurt. So it looks like and Saquon Barkley's already admitted that his ankle is kind of is a problem, but he's going to try and play through it. Well, he didn't play through it terribly well last week. In fact, he looked quite encumbered by it. So that is a problem. What I would like to see is more creativity on offense and defense. I would like a little less soft zone. I would like us to trust that Bradbury can cover Devontae Smith, and I'd like to see a little bit more trust in McKinney and all these kind of guys. Who's an awesome free safety. I would like to see him being trusted a little bit more in coverage. And so that we can get after the quarterback. That's what I'd like to see. A little bit less soft zone. I would like to see us finding it, beefing it up in the defensive line. I would like to see Leonard Williams penetrating a little more. I'd like to see a little bit more from Dexter Lawrence, and make use of Ojulari on the outside. I think that would be good. And then we just need to trust that we've got two really good corners. We do have two starting caliber corners that are very good. And we've got McKinney, who's got three very decent guys in the secondary that can do a job. So we just need to trust them a little bit more rather than just soft zone, which is basically the bend but don't break defense. But there's not terribly many plays being made out of that. It's just stopping a massive play coming. So I would like to see that as a change. Would you like to see?
Uh, yeah, I want to see some points. For once, I think that's a pretty simple ask. Just get some points on the board. Stopping Philly right now seems like a tall task. They're playing pretty well. Hurts looks like he's found it, at least to an extent. He looks a lot better at this point than he did in the beginning of the year. Um, and they're still fighting with Dallas losing on Thanksgiving. Philly's still very much alive in the NFC East race where, even though we're technically still in it, we're pretty much just trying to figure it out. So they're going to be playing for something. We're pretty much playing for pride at this point, just trying to beat a division rival. But yeah, I think I pretty much agree with everything you said. I just want to see something different. If we come out with that same defense that was getting toasted in Tampa Bay, Philly's going to do the same thing. Like, look, this is how you beat the Giants. Their cornerbacks are playing 10 yards off the receiver. Just throw it short. We'll beat you down the field methodically. We'll put together 7-8 minute drives that end up with 6. Sometimes they end up with 3, but eventually the clock's going to wind out. Giants aren't going to score that many points, and boom, you beat them 20-10 or something like that. And that's really the recipe to beat the New York Giants because they show you every single week how to beat them, and they don't make it very difficult to do so.
Here's what's the problem for us because matchup wise. Earlier this year, Philadelphia looked like a disaster, right? Because all they were doing is passing the ball, which wasn't their strength. That's not Hurt's strength. He's okay, but he's more of a running quarterback. And they had Miles Sanders, who's an awesome running back, but they never used him. They never used him at all. And Eagles fans were going nuts. But Sirianni made a change in scheme midway through, and now it's a run-based offense. They're second in the NFL now in NFL rushing yards per average. I believe they've got it. I just got the stat here. They average 153.4 rushing yards a game, 5 yards per carry. They lead the NFC in rushing attack, and a lot of that is the change that they made. So, Boston Scott's certainly no slouch. He's killed the Giants before, and Miles Sanders have always liked him. He's a threat, both catching the ball and in the backfield. So he's good. And Devontae Smith, he won a Heisman for a reason. He is a sensational wide receiver. And the big difference is Jalen Hurts finds his best receiver. You know what I mean? And then they've also got a very decent tight end in Dallas Goedert. So good that they even traded Zach Ertz. So, and they've not really missed him, which is amazing. And that's the big difference because the Giants don't make use of any of their weapons. So I've named that they've got a really good rookie wide receiver, and they've got a quarterback who they're not all in on. They're not all in on Jalen Hurts. They're not even sure that he's the guy yet. Yet he's actually a better quarterback than Daniel Jones is this year by every single statistic, which is scary. And big difference is Jalen Hurts is able to find his best receivers. And that's the big difference because Daniel Jones isn't. Whether that's scheme, whether that's the offensive line, whatever it is, we'll see. Maybe Freddie Kitchens can make a change with that. But it's not. For some reason, even though we've got a really good interior defensive line in Dexter Lawrence, Austin Johnson's had a good year, and Leonard Williams, we've really struggled with the run. Why are we struggling with the run game so much, Rob?
I wish I knew. We can't stop the run, and we have this, the hog mollies on the defensive line. I mean, it's brutal. Right now, everything that they did well last year, they're not really doing well this year. I mean, Tampa Bay didn't have to run the football much last week, but they still ran it well. We miss tackles. We don't close up the gaps. I mean, guys just run right through the hole and they pick up 3-4 yards, and eventually that's going to add up. Philly always, every single year, no matter who it is, they find a way to get a big play on the ground against us that goes for a good 20-30 yards. So if they want to win this game, they have to really play a perfect game defensively because the Eagles offense has the ability to put up 30 each week with the playmakers that they have. And can we stop that? I mean, anything can happen any given Sunday, but Will we? To probably not to the extent that we need to. I mean, we're gonna give up some points, that's for sure. But I hope we come away with the win. If anything comes out of this season, I want at least one win against Philly and Dallas, just for a little tiny sliver of bragging rights, I guess, because everything else has been so bad.
Can I ask you a question? What would our record need to be? What would our question? Well, my question to you is, what would our record need to be for the last 7 games for you to be sure that Joe Judge should be brought back? 4-3, 3-4.
Let's say like we got to finish with at least 7 wins. So I would say 4-3 is kind of like the outlier, but you can go 5-2 because the rest of the schedule is kind of lenient. It's not as difficult as the first half was, but Philly's no slouch. I still think we can take Miami. I do think we can hang with the Chargers. I don't think we'll beat them, but we could hang with them. Any division game is always winnable. We should be able to beat the Bears. So I would say at least 4 wins, and then we can kind of assess that. See how they're playing, though, because if we're getting like some cheap wins, something like where the other team gets like a bad penalty or something that helps us out, we just didn't look good. One thing I will say is we have looked pretty good in our wins this year, at least at some points. The Saints game, it looked bad, and then we finished strong. But we looked really good against Carolina. We looked really good against the Raiders. So, I mean, give me another 4 wins, finish with 7, and I would guess one more year of Joe Judge and Gettleman. And then if they have another bad year, then it's got to be it. But I'm saying this with, like, a lot of contempt because it's just like I want change here. I'm sick of being like, well, let's see what happens. Well, there's always next year. It's becoming this endless cycle. I feel like it's Groundhog Day, and I hate it.
It is an endless cycle, man. It's tough. Do you get excited for Giant games anymore? I used to, but not anymore.
No, I can't. It's very different. I mean, I will always watch it, even if I have to pay attention to the play-by-play on my phone. But I get excited because it's football Sunday, but then I'm like, how are the Giants gonna piss me off today? That's what it's come to. It's not like, all right, it's Giants football. Let's sit down. Let's get some food and some snack, whatever, and just watch the game. Now it's just, what are they gonna do today to have me looking at the draft board in 4 hours? That's basically what it's come to. So, on that
You're
note,
right. Every year now, looking at the draft board. Every year, looking at the draft board now, instead of what I used to get excited for games days in advance, an entire week in advance. After Sunday, I'm like, oh damn, wait a whole week for the Giants. Now it's like, oh, here we go, another tough 3 hours. Here we go. It's not. I just love football Sunday, so that's why I always watch. And obviously, I'll always love the Giants. I'll never miss a Giant game. For as long as I live, I will always watch them. But do I get excited? No. And did I get excited watching that Tampa game? Not in any remote sense of the word. Even when we tied the game, I knew we were going to lose. And that's not a great feeling. It's a great feeling as a fan. It really is. It's tough. But that's the way this organization has operated for years now.
Yeah, it's tough to watch. But that is going to wrap it up for us here today. Thank you guys for watching.
Rob, how was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, how was my Thanksgiving? I stayed home. I watched football that didn't have any real significance to me, and I just enjoyed the time off from work and the time off from Giants football. I hope you had a very similar, or I hope you had a good day. I had a good day, so I'm hoping you had a good day as well.
Amen.
Awesome. Thank you guys for watching, and make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Let's go Giants. Let's hope for a win on Sunday. Praying, and we will see you guys next time. Peace out.
Peace out.